Your fiancée can't sit with us. She's not our kind, Mom said. My girlfriend was a different race. I stood up, announced I was cutting them off, and we left. Karma hit when Mom's business failed in 6 weeks without my help. Now she is begging. I never thought I'd be writing this, but here we are. I'm 29, male, and this whole mess started about 8 months ago when I brought my fiancée Maya home to meet my family for the first time. Maya is black. I'm white, and apparently that was a bigger problem for my family than I ever imagined it would be. Before I get into the disaster that was that dinner, let me give you some background. My mom, Linda, runs a small but successful catering business that she built from the ground up over the past 15 years. She's always been proud of it, and honestly, she should be. The woman can cook like nobody's business, and she's managed to build a solid client base in our mid-sized town. Her specialty is Southern comfort food with a modern twist, and she's become the go-to caterer for weddings, corporate events, and family gatherings throughout the area. My dad, Robert, works for the city in some administrative role dealing with municipal planning, and my younger sister Emma is finishing up college studying pre-med. Growing up, our family seemed pretty normal on the surface. We weren't rich, but we were comfortable middle class. Mom's business did well enough that we took family vacations every year to places like Myrtle Beach or the Smoky Mountains, and I never wanted for anything. We lived in a nice 3-bedroom house in a decent neighborhood, and my parents were involved in the community. Mom was in the PTA when Emma and I were in school, and Dad coached Little League Baseball for a few years. But looking back now, I realize there were always little comments here and there that should have been red flags about my parents' views on race. Nothing too obvious or outright hateful, just those subtle remarks that you brush off at the time but start to make sense later. Like when we drive through certain neighborhoods and Mom would lock the car doors just to be safe, or when Dad would make comments about urban music or those people when watching the news. They never used slurs around us kids, but there was always this underlying current of something. I guess I thought it was just generational differences or small-town narrow-mindedness that they'd grow out of eventually. I've been helping Mom with her catering business since I was 16. Started out just washing dishes and carrying supplies during weekend events, but over the years I gradually became her unofficial business manager. By the time I graduated college, I was handling all her bookkeeping, managing her social media presence, dealing with vendors, coordinating schedules, and basically running the entire administrative side of things while she focused on the cooking and client relations. She's never been great with technology or paperwork. The woman still writes everything down on paper napkins and sticky notes, so I've been absolutely essential to keeping things running smoothly and professionally. The arrangement worked well for both of us, or so I thought. I have a degree in business administration and was working a decent but mind-numbingly boring office job doing data analysis for an insurance company, so helping Mom gave me a creative outlet and some extra income on the side. She got professional-level business support for way less than she'd pay a real consultant or business manager. I was putting in about 20 to 25 hours a week on her business, handling everything from QuickBooks and tax preparation to Instagram posts and Facebook advertising to negotiating contracts with suppliers and venues. Over the years, I'd helped her expand from doing small family gatherings and church potlucks to landing contracts with major local employers, wedding venues, and even some regional corporate clients. I built her website, set up her online ordering system, established relationships with preferred vendors for better pricing, and created a social media strategy that had tripled her customer base in just 3 years. I was basically running a marketing agency and accounting firm all in one, but doing it for family rates because I wanted to see her succeed. The business had grown from a small side hustle Mom ran out of our home kitchen to a legitimate operation with a rented commercial kitchen space, 2 part-time employees, and enough steady clients to provide a comfortable living. She was booked solid most weekends and had a waiting list for popular dates like graduation season and the holidays. Without my help managing the business side of things, she would have been completely overwhelmed and probably would have stayed small forever. Now, about Maya. We met 18 months ago at a coffee shop downtown, where she was reading The Immortal Life of Henrietta Lacks, a book I'd absolutely loved when I read it for a bioethics class in college. I couldn't help but notice this beautiful woman completely absorbed in her reading, occasionally making little notes in the margins. When she got up to order another coffee, I worked up the courage to comment on the book, and we ended up talking for 3 hours about everything from medical ethics to our favorite authors to our career goals. Maya is a pediatric nurse at the Children's Hospital across town, incredibly smart, genuinely funny, and just an all-around amazing person who lights up any room she walks into. She has this infectious laugh that makes everyone around her smile, and she's one of those people who remembers little details about everyone she meets. She volunteers at the animal shelter on her days off, sends birthday cards to all her coworkers' kids, and has never met a stray cat she didn't try to feed. We clicked immediately over shared interests in hiking, cooking, and terrible reality TV shows that we're both embarrassed to admit we love. I knew pretty early on that this was the woman I wanted to marry. Not just because she's drop-dead gorgeous, which she absolutely is, with these amazing dark eyes and a smile that could stop traffic, but because of who she is as a person. She challenges me to be better, supports my dreams, calls me out when I'm being stupid, and makes me laugh every single day. She's also incredibly driven and ambitious in the best way, always taking continuing education courses to advance her career and talking about eventually going back to school to become a nurse practitioner. I'd told my family about Maya from pretty early in our relationship, of course, but I'd been hesitant to bring her around to meet them in person. Not because I was ashamed of her or anything like that, I was proud as hell to be with her, but because I knew my parents could be judgmental about people they perceived as different from us. I'd mentioned casually that she was black during one of our Sunday phone calls about 6 months into our relationship, and while they didn't say anything openly racist in response, there was definitely a noticeable shift in how they talked about her after that. Suddenly they were asking fewer questions about her, and when they did mention her, it was with this weird forced politeness that felt completely off. Before I told them about her race, Mom would ask things like, "What's Maya's family like?" Or, "Where did she grow up?" But afterward, the questions became much more surface level and careful, like they were walking on eggshells. They stopped asking when they might meet her, and when I'd mentioned things we'd done together, their responses became noticeably more subdued. Maya had been incredibly patient about meeting them, understanding my hesitation, but also making it clear that it was important to her to be accepted by my family. After we got engaged 3 months ago, I proposed on a hiking trail where we'd had our first real date, and she cried happy tears for about 10 minutes. She started asking more frequently when she'd get to meet my family. I kept making excuses, saying they were busy with the catering business or that the timing wasn't right, but eventually I ran out of them. She never pressured me directly, but I could see in her eyes that my reluctance was starting to hurt her feelings and make her wonder if I was embarrassed about our relationship. So finally, after weeks of internal debate, and Maya gently pointing out that we couldn't get married without her meeting my family at least once, I called my mom and arranged for us to have dinner at my parents' house on a Sunday evening. Just the 5 of us. My parents, Emma, who was home from college for the weekend, Maya, and me. I figured a small, intimate dinner would be better than some big family gathering where there would be more potential for things to go wrong. I spent the entire week before the dinner feeling anxious about it. I coached Maya on family dynamics, told her about Dad's obsession with Civil War history and Mom's pride in her cooking, warned her that they could be a little old-fashioned in their thinking, but that they meant well. I even practiced conversations in my head, imagining different scenarios and how I'd handle them if things got uncomfortable. But I never imagined it would go as badly as it did. I should have known something was wrong the moment I walked into the house and saw that Mom had only set 4 places at the dining room table. 4, when she knew damn well that 5 people were coming for dinner. "Mom," I said, pointing at the table setting, "you're missing a place setting." She looked confused for a second, like she genuinely didn't understand what I was talking about, then said, "Oh, I thought Maya might be more comfortable eating in the kitchen. You know how some people prefer to be more casual." I stared at her, trying to process what she'd just said. "What are you talking about? We're all eating together in the dining room like a normal family dinner." Mom got this tight, artificial smile on her face, the one she uses when she's trying to be diplomatic, but is actually being completely unreasonable. I'd seen that smile countless times growing up, usually right before she'd tell me why I couldn't do something I wanted to do. "Well, honey, your father and I thought it might be better if Maya and I got to know each other one-on-one in the kitchen first. Girl talk, you know? Sometimes it's easier to connect without all the pressure of a formal dinner." Maya, who had been standing quietly beside me taking all this in with growing alarm, spoke up. "Actually, I'd prefer to eat with everyone if that's okay. I was really looking forward to meeting your whole family together." The look my mother gave Maya in that moment was something I'll never forget. It wasn't outright hostile, but it was cold in a way that made my stomach drop and my face flush with embarrassment. It was the kind of look you'd give someone who had just said something incredibly presumptuous or inappropriate. "I'm sure you would," she said, and there was something in her tone that made it sound like an insult disguised as polite acknowledgement. My dad chose that exact moment to emerge from the living room where he'd been watching some History Channel documentary about World War II. "Maya, nice to finally meet you," he said, extending his hand for a handshake. But even he seemed uncomfortable and uncertain, like he wasn't sure how to act or what to say. His usual easy charm that he displayed with everyone else seemed forced and awkward. Emma, to her credit, was the only one acting normal. She hugged Maya warmly and immediately started chatting with her about nursing school, since Emma's pre-med and considering a career in pediatric medicine herself. But I could see her shooting worried, confused glances at our parents, clearly picking up on the weird tension in the room. "So," I said, trying to salvage the situation and get things back on track, "should I grab another place setting for the dining room?" Mom's artificial smile got even tighter and more strained. "Actually, I think it would be better if you and Maya ate in the kitchen. The dining room table is really just meant for family." The words hung in the air like a physical slap. Maya's hand tightened on my arm, and I felt my face flush with anger and profound embarrassment. "Excuse me?" I said, my voice already getting louder. "Now don't make a big deal out of this," Dad jumped in quickly, clearly sensing that things were about to escalate. "Your mother just thinks it would be more comfortable for everyone if—" "If what?" I interrupted, my voice rising. "If my fiancé, who is family, eats in the kitchen like the hired help? That's not what we're saying," Mom insisted, but her defensive tone suggested that it was exactly what she was saying. "We just think Maya would feel more comfortable. Your fiancé can't sit with us. She's not our kind," Mom said quietly, but loud enough for everyone in the room to hear clearly. The silence that followed was absolutely deafening. Maya went very still beside me, and I could practically feel the hurt and shock radiating off her in waves. Emma gasped audibly, her hand flying to her mouth. Dad looked like he wanted to disappear into the floor and pretend this conversation had never happened. I looked at my mother, this woman who had raised me, who had taught me to always treat people with respect and kindness, who had volunteered at church charity drives and community food banks, and I barely recognized her. This wasn't the woman who had raised me to believe that everyone deserved dignity and basic human decency. "Excuse me?" I said again, my voice barely controlled and shaking with rage. Mom had the decency to look uncomfortable for a split second, but then she doubled down instead of backing off. "I just mean that she's different from us, and family dinners are for family, and she's not—" "She's my fiancé," I said, my voice getting louder and more forceful with each word. "She is family. Or she will be, if you don't completely destroy this relationship with your racist bullshit." "Don't you dare call me racist," Mom snapped back, her artificial politeness finally cracking completely. "I am not a racist person. I just think people should stick with their own kind. It's better for everyone involved, including her. These kinds of relationships are complicated, and I'm just looking out for both of you." "Do you hear yourself right now?" I was fully yelling at this point, not caring who heard me. "Do you actually hear the words coming out of your mouth? Because you sound exactly like every racist person who's ever tried to justify their prejudice." Maya tugged gently on my arm, clearly uncomfortable with the escalating confrontation. "Marcus, maybe we should just go," she said quietly, her voice steady, but I could hear the hurt underneath it. "No," I said firmly, looking at her with what I hoped was reassurance. "We shouldn't have to go. They should be welcoming you with open arms because I love you, and you're going to be their daughter-in-law. You should be treated like the amazing woman you are, not like some kind of inconvenience they have to tolerate." I turned back to my parents, feeling angrier than I could ever remember being in my entire life. "This is absolutely unbelievable. I thought I knew you people. I thought you raised me better than this." "We're your parents," Dad said, finally speaking up and trying to take control of the situation. "We're just looking out for you, son. These kinds of relationships, they're complicated. There are cultural differences that can cause problems down the road. Different backgrounds, different ways of doing things. We're just trying to save you from potential heartache." "Cultural differences?" I laughed, but there was absolutely no humor in it. "What cultural differences?" "Maya's more educated than any of us. She has a bachelor's degree in nursing and is working on her master's. She saves kids' lives for a living every single day. She volunteers at animal shelters on weekends. She's kind, intelligent, funny, hardworking, and she makes me happier than I've ever been in my entire life. But none of that matters to you people because she's black." "That's not—" Mom started to protest. "That's exactly what it is," I cut her off. "And you know what? I'm done. I'm completely done with all of this bullshit." I grabbed Maya's hand firmly. "We're leaving, and we're not coming back until you can treat Maya with the respect and dignity she deserves as a human being and as my fiancé." "Marcus, don't be so dramatic about this," Mom said, her voice taking on a pleading tone. "We can work this out like adults. Maybe next time we can meet at a restaurant instead." Somewhere more neutral where everyone feels comfortable. I stopped dead in my tracks and turned around slowly. Do you hear what you're saying right now? You're trying to negotiate how little you have to tolerate my fiancée, the woman I love, the woman I'm going to marry. You're treating her like she's some kind of burden you need to manage instead of someone you should be excited to welcome into this family. I just need time to adjust to all this, Mom said, and for the first time tonight, she sounded a little desperate. This is all very sudden for us. We didn't expect. You didn't expect what? That I'd fall in love with someone who doesn't look exactly like us. You know what, Mom? You've had 18 months to adjust to the idea that I'm with Maya. I've been telling you about her this whole time, sharing stories about our relationship, talking about how happy she makes me. The only thing that changed tonight is that you finally met her face to face and confirmed that yes, she's actually black. And apparently that's such a huge problem that you can't even let her sit at your dinner table. I took a deep breath, trying to calm down enough to think clearly. And since that's such an insurmountable problem for you, here's what's going to happen. I'm cutting you off, all of you, except Emma if she wants to maintain a relationship with us. You won't hear from me again until you can sincerely apologize to Maya and prove that you've actually changed your attitudes and not just learned to hide them better. Marcus, you don't mean that, Dad said, looking genuinely shocked. You're upset and we understand that, but you don't really mean what you're saying. I absolutely mean every word of it. And just so we're crystal clear about what this means, that includes the catering business too. I won't be helping with any of that anymore either. Good luck figuring out QuickBooks and Instagram and vendor negotiations on your own. Mom's face went completely white as the implications of what I was saying hit her. You can't be serious about that. Dead serious. You want to treat my fiancée like she's not good enough for your precious family? Fine. See how your precious family business does without me? And with that, Maya and I walked toward the front door. Mom followed us, practically stumbling over her own feet. Marcus, please don't leave like this. We can talk about it more. Maybe Maya could come for lunch sometime instead of a family dinner. Or we could meet somewhere else. Somewhere that feels less formal. We just need to take this slowly. I stopped one more time and turned around, seeing my mother clearly for maybe the first time in my life. Do you hear what you're saying? You're trying to negotiate the bare minimum level of acceptance you're willing to show to the woman I love, the woman I'm going to marry and have children with someday. You're treating this like it's some kind of business deal where you're trying to minimize your losses instead of recognizing that you're about to lose your son. I just need time to adjust, Mom repeated weakly. You know what, Mom? You've had plenty of time. What you need is not time. What you need is to examine your heart and figure out why the color of someone's skin matters more to you than their character, their accomplishments, and their love for your son. And with that final statement, Maya and I walked out the front door and didn't look back. The car ride home was absolutely awful. Maya was trying her best not to cry, but I could see tears silently streaming down her face as she stared out the passenger window. I was so angry I could barely see straight, my hands gripping the steering wheel so tightly, my knuckles were white. We drove in complete silence for the first 10 minutes, both of us too shocked and hurt to even know what to say. Finally, Maya spoke up in a small voice. I'm sorry. What? I nearly slammed on the brakes. What are you apologizing for? For causing problems with your family. For making you choose between me and them. I never wanted to be the reason you had a fight with your parents. I pulled over into a parking lot and turned to face her. Maya, listen to me. You have absolutely nothing to apologize for. Nothing. What happened back there was not your fault in any way, shape, or form. You were nothing but polite and gracious to people who treated you terribly. I'm the one who should be apologizing to you. But they're your family, she said, finally looking at me with red-rimmed eyes. And now you've cut them off because of me. No, I said firmly. I cut them off because of their behavior, because of their racism, because of their complete lack of respect for you and for our relationship. You didn't cause any of this. They did. We talked for another hour sitting in that parking lot, with me trying to reassure her that she wasn't responsible for my family's bigotry, and her struggling to process what had just happened. She told me she'd hoped for the best but prepared for the worst, but that the reality was somehow even worse than she'd imagined it might be. I keep thinking about how they looked at me, she said, like I was something dirty they found on their shoe. I've experienced racism before, but never quite like that. It was so cold, so calculated. When we finally got back to my apartment, we ordered pizza and tried to watch a movie, but neither of us could focus. Maya ended up falling asleep on my couch while I sat up most of the night thinking about everything that had happened and what it meant for our future. The next few weeks were a strange mix of liberation and anxiety. True to my word, I cut off all contact with my parents completely. I blocked their numbers on my phone, unfriended them on all social media platforms, and refused to respond to any attempts at communication through Emma or family friends. Emma thankfully reached out separately the day after the dinner disaster to apologize profusely for their behavior and to tell Maya directly that she was embarrassed and ashamed by our parents' actions. I've never seen them act like that before, Emma told us over coffee a few days later. I mean, I knew they could be kind of old-fashioned about some things, but I had no idea they were capable of being so blatantly racist. I'm so sorry, Maya. You didn't deserve any of that. She asked if she could still have a relationship with both of us despite what our parents had done, and of course we said yes. Emma was finishing her last semester of college and planning to move to another state for medical school anyway, so she was already distancing herself from our parents' influence. About 2 weeks after the dinner disaster, I started getting increasingly frantic voicemails from Mom. I didn't answer any of her calls, but I couldn't help listening to the messages out of morbid curiosity. They started out angry and defensive, with her insisting that she wasn't racist and that I was overreacting to what she called a misunderstanding. But as the days went on, the tone shifted to desperate panic as the business consequences of my absence became clear. She was having trouble accessing the financial software I'd set up because she'd never bothered to learn the passwords. She had accidentally deleted some important customer information from the database while trying to figure out how the system worked. She was struggling to keep up with social media posts, and the few she did manage to post were poorly written and clearly not professionally done. Several clients had called asking about upcoming events, and she'd had to admit she wasn't sure about the details because I had been the one managing all the contracts and scheduling. I didn't call her back. Then, Emma called me with an update that made me feel a complicated mix of satisfaction and guilt. Marcus, I think you need to know what's happening with Mom's business, she said during one of our regular check-ins. I don't really want to hear about it, I said, though that wasn't entirely true. No, you need to listen. It's bad. Really, really bad. She's lost 3 major clients in the past 2 weeks because she completely messed up their orders. She couldn't access the customer database to check their specific preferences and dietary restrictions, so she's been trying to manage everything with those little paper notes she writes to herself, and you know how disorganized those are. I did know. Mom's handwritten notes were legendary in our family for being completely illegible and scattered all over the house. She forgot about Mrs. Henderson's retirement party until the day before it was supposed to happen, Emma continued. When she tried to throw something together last minute, she accidentally gave them chicken instead of the vegetarian menu they'd specifically requested 6 months ago. Mrs. Henderson was furious. Apparently, 2 of the guests were vegetarian for religious reasons, and they couldn't eat anything at their own event. Despite everything that had happened, I felt a small pang of guilt. Mrs. Henderson had been one of Mom's very first clients when she started the business 15 years ago. She'd given Mom her big break by recommending her to other people in the community, and she'd been a loyal customer ever since, booking Mom for at least 3 or 4 events every year. That's not my problem anymore, I said. But even as I said it, I wasn't entirely sure I believed it. Marcus, I know you're angry, and you have every right to be. What they did to Maya was absolutely inexcusable, and I'm still furious about it. But Mom's business is literally her whole life. She doesn't know how to run it without your help. And I don't think she ever really understood how much you were doing until now. Then she should have thought about that before she decided my fiancé wasn't good enough to eat at her dining room table, I replied, but my voice lacked some of its earlier conviction. Emma sighed heavily. I know. I don't know what's going to happen to her if this continues. And Dad's trying to help, but he doesn't know anything about the business side of things either. By the end of the 3rd week, I heard through Emma that Mom had lost 5 more clients. She'd been trying to manage the books herself and had somehow managed to double charge several customers while completely forgetting to invoice others. Her social media presence had ground to a complete halt. She'd posted once in 2 weeks, and it was a blurry photo of a casserole with the caption, "Good food," that got exactly 3 likes. She'd missed 2 important vendor deadlines because she couldn't figure out how to access the electronic ordering systems I'd carefully set up to streamline her supply chain. The business that had taken her 15 years to build was falling apart in real time, and I was watching it happen from the sidelines. Meanwhile, Maya and I were moving forward with planning our wedding, which we'd decided to move up to the following spring. We'd found a beautiful venue at a historic inn about an hour outside the city, booked a photographer whose work we absolutely loved, and were working on finalizing our guest list. The question of whether to invite my parents hung over everything like a dark cloud, but we decided that unless they made some serious, genuine changes to their attitudes and behavior, they wouldn't be getting an invitation to witness the most important day of our lives. Maya was handling everything with such grace and strength that it made me fall in love with her all over again. She could have easily told me to choose between her and my family, or demanded that I cut them off permanently, but instead she kept saying she hoped they'd come around eventually because she knew how much family meant to me. She was better than they deserved, and certainly better than I deserved. 6 weeks after the dinner disaster, Emma called me in tears at 11 o'clock on a Tuesday night. "Marcus, you have to help her," she said between sobs. "Mom's business is completely failing. She's talking about having to shut down entirely. She laid off both of her part-time employees last week, and she's barely making enough money to cover the rent on the commercial kitchen space." "Emma," I started, but she cut me off. "I know you're mad. I know what they did was absolutely wrong and unforgivable, but she's falling apart, Marcus. She hasn't been sleeping. She's barely eating anything. Dad's worried she's going to have a complete breakdown. She just sits at the kitchen table staring at papers she can't understand, and she cries all the time. What do you want me to do about it?" I asked, though part of me already knew what she was going to say. "Talk to her, please. I think she knows she messed up badly. She's been crying about it for weeks. She keeps saying she doesn't know how to fix any of this mess. She could start by apologizing to Maya. A real apology, not some half-hearted sorry you felt bad nonsense. I think she wants to. She's just scared and proud. You know how Mom is. She's never been good at admitting when she's wrong. I did know how Mom was. Stubborn as a mule and convinced she was always right about everything, even when all evidence pointed to the contrary. Getting her to admit she'd made a mistake was like pulling teeth. "I'll think about it," I told Emma, though I wasn't sure if I actually would. That night, Maya and I had a long conversation about it while we sat on our couch sharing a bottle of wine. "Part of me feels bad for her," Maya admitted, swirling her wine around in her glass. "I mean, I don't want to see anyone's livelihood destroyed, even someone who was horrible to me. It doesn't make me feel good to know she's suffering." "You're too good of a person," I said. "After the way she treated you, you shouldn't feel bad for her at all. You have every right to want her to face consequences for her actions." "I know I shouldn't feel bad, but I do. Maybe it's the nurse in me, but I don't like seeing people suffer, even people who've hurt me. I've seen what losing everything can do to people, and it's not pretty. So what do you think I should do?" Maya was quiet for a long moment, considering her words carefully. "I think you should do whatever feels right to you. If you want to help her, I'll support that decision, but only if she genuinely apologizes and makes a real effort to change her attitudes. I won't be treated like a second-class citizen in your family ever again. She'd have to prove she's actually sorry, not just sorry that there were consequences for her actions." "Exactly. And if she can't do that, then maybe losing her business is the wake-up call she needs." 2 days later, after wrestling with my conscience and my anger for hours, I finally answered one of Mom's increasingly desperate phone calls. "Marcus? Oh my God, thank you for picking up," she said, her voice hoarse like she'd been crying. "I've been trying to reach you for weeks." "I know. I got all your messages. I need your help desperately. The business it's falling apart completely. I don't know how to do any of the computer stuff you used to handle. I've lost so many clients, and I can't figure out how to get new ones without the social media posts you used to do. Please, I'm begging you to help me." "Mom, let me stop you right there," I said firmly. "I'm not helping you with anything until you apologize to Maya. A real, sincere apology where you take full responsibility for what you did." There was a long pause on the other end of the line. What exactly do you want me to say?" "You heard me. A real apology. Not an 'I'm sorry you were offended' or 'I'm sorry there was a misunderstanding.' A real apology where you acknowledge that what you said was racist and hurtful and completely wrong." "Marcus, I was just trying to protect you and—" "Nope. Wrong answer. Try again." Another pause, longer this time. "I'm sorry Maya felt unwelcome in our home. Still not good enough. Try again." I could hear her crying on the other end of the line, and despite everything, it was hard to listen to. "I don't know what you want me to say. I want you to say that you were wrong to treat Maya the way you did. I want you to acknowledge that what you said was racist and cruel. And I want you to promise that if we give you another chance, you'll treat her with the respect she deserves as my fiancée and your future daughter-in-law. Marcus, please. I'm going to lose everything I've worked for. The business is my whole life. Then you better figure out how to give a sincere apology because I'm not helping you until you do." I hung up, my hands shaking slightly from the adrenaline of the confrontation. 3 days later, she called back. Her voice was different this time, smaller, more vulnerable. "Marcus, I've been thinking about what you said, really thinking about it. And I was wrong. Her voice was quiet and shaky. I was wrong to treat Maya the way I did. It was racist, and it was cruel. And she didn't deserve any of it. Neither of you deserved it. I waited for her to continue, not making it easy for her. I've been raised with certain ideas about how things should be, about what's normal and what's not. And I let those ideas hurt someone you love, which means I hurt you too. I'm sorry. I'm really, truly sorry for what I did. It wasn't perfect, but it was definitely better than anything she'd said before. Okay, I said cautiously. That's better. But you need to apologize to Maya too, not just to me. She's the one you hurt the most. Would she be willing to talk to me? I know I don't deserve it, but I'd like the chance to apologize to her directly. I'll ask her. Maya agreed to take the call, though she was understandably nervous about it. I stayed in the room and listened as Mom apologized to her directly, and while it was awkward and stilted, it did seem genuine. I was wrong to judge you without getting to know you, Mom told Maya, her voice thick with emotion. And I was wrong to make you feel unwelcome in my home. I let my own prejudices and fears control my behavior, and that's inexcusable. If you're willing to give me another chance, I'd like to try to do better. I want to learn to be the kind of mother-in-law you deserve. Maya was gracious and mature, as always. I appreciate the apology, and I can hear that you mean it. I think we can try to move forward, but it's going to take time to rebuild trust. This can't happen again. I understand completely, Mom said. Whatever it takes. I just want the chance to make this right. After Maya hung up, Mom and I talked about the business situation. How bad is it really? I asked. Worse than I ever imagined it could be. I've lost about 60% of my regular clients. I owe money to 3 different vendors because I missed payment deadlines. I didn't even know those existed until they called demanding their money. I had to let both my part-time employees go because I couldn't afford to pay them, and I have absolutely no idea how to fix any of it. I feel completely helpless. I sighed, feeling the weight of the decision I was about to make. All right, I'll help you. But things are going to be different from now on. Different how? First, Maya and I are both going to be invited to every single family gathering from now on, and she's going to be treated like the valued family member she is. Second, I'm not doing this for free anymore. If you want professional business management services, you're going to pay professional rates like you would any other consultant. And third, if you ever treat Maya with anything less than complete respect again, I'm gone for good. No second chances, no negotiations. I'll walk away and never look back. Yes, she said quickly. Yes, absolutely. Whatever you want, whatever it takes. I'm serious, Mom. This is your one and only chance. Don't blow it. It took nearly 3 months of intensive work to get Mom's business back on track. I had to do extensive damage control with former clients, many of whom were understandably hesitant to trust her again after the disasters they'd experienced. I rebuilt her customer database completely from scratch, spending hours on the phone with past clients to reconstruct their preferences and event histories. I completely overhauled her social media presence, creating new content and rebuilding her online reputation one post at a time. And after 8 months, everything is back to normal.